Hello viewers, welcome back to Daily Retro. Today we've got another episode of retro gaming news and additions, and we're going to jump right into it with the first bit of news. So there's not much to talk about the last month or so that I've been keeping an eye on, but the pieces of news I've chosen are actually quite close to my heart. So there's a couple things. So I'll start off with the most important / relevant bit of news, which is you may or may not know that there's a modder called Crix who makes the EverDrives. So Crix is from Ukraine, and if you know anything about anything at the moment, you know that Ukraine is being taken over by Russia. Very sad, and obviously a lot of Ukrainians are having to flee Ukraine, and Crix is one of these people, unfortunately. And it looks like the official EverDrive stock has gone off the official store, and the store is actually closing down. This is obviously very sad. He's a very talented developer and distributor of this hardware that a lot of people I know use to play their backups on their old consoles. I only recently bought one for my Game Boy Color. Great piece of hardware, can't fault it. And really high end. It's sort of the highest end sort of flash ROMs you can buy. But yeah, really sad bit of news that it kind of means that the stock is all of his remaining stock is being sold off in bulk on eBay at the moment. So when that eventually goes to whichever supplier chooses to buy it all, then that may well be the last bit of EverDrive hardware you see for a long time. So you may see the prices of it increase, so that's something to keep an eye on. If you want one, probably a good time to snatch one up now. But yeah, that's the first bit of news, and sending out best wishes to everyone in Ukraine at the moment, for reasons beside that, obviously. So the second bit of news is that Castlemania Games, one of the biggest suppliers / distributors in America for sort of retro mods, have released a Gamecube Swiss memory card. So if you know what Swiss is just a sort of piece of booting firmware for the Gamecube that allows you to boot from backups, or any other sort of ROM hacks or custom homebrew. And that's a really cool piece of hardware. So it means that you won't have to actually physically mod your GameCube to be able to boot into homebrew and backups. So I'll link that in the description. Very inexpensive, I think. It's about £19 for us, or maybe even $19. Not really sure on that, but it's fairly cheap anyway. And all you have to do is have a copy of Wind Waker, or I believe it's Paper Mario, and then that allows the sort of exploit within the memory card to boot in to Swiss. And then you can play from other bits of hardware if you so wish. So I thought that was really interesting, and just another key piece of retro modding hardware that could be useful for lovers of the GameCube. So moving on to the additions part of today's episode. It's kind of a special episode for me today. I've always had a list when I go into my local retro gaming shops of stuff I want to buy. Usually most of it is for nostalgic reasons, so the games that are on my list are games that I've played as a child, and I want to re-add them to my collection because I either didn't own them, they were either at a friend's house, or I just borrowed them, or they were from Blockbuster or whatever. But very recently, I think it's about 3 or 4 weeks ago now, I've completed that list. And it feels odd to me because now I went to Retro Games HQ in Swindon a couple of weeks ago, and there's nothing on my list. Well, there was one sort of fairly nostalgic thing, but I'll get onto that in a second. But yeah, there's a lot to go through, so I'll crack on and explain as I go along why these items are nostalgic to myself. So, as I mentioned, I went to Retro Games HQ. I've been on the lookout for a PlayStation 1, the sort of original I think it's called the SCPH 1002 model, which is one of the first models ever released in Europe. And Pete so happened to have a very nice condition box for it. I've already put a box protector on it, as you can see. I think I bought these from Game Vault on eBay. But yeah, I paid about £20 for this, and it is absolutely mint. I can't believe how minty this box is when it's over 20 years old now. It must be like 24 years old, I think. Yeah, crazy. And it's got all the inserts. It's even got a box for the official memory card. But obviously it didn't actually come with any hardware. But that was not an issue really, because Pete didn't have the matching hardware for the box. He usually just sells them sort of randomly together, but I'm a bit more anal than that. But I knew for a fact that buying PlayStation 1s is a very cheap outlay, so I just sort of thought, get the good condition box and then just go and get the PlayStation elsewhere, and that is what I've done. So I managed to pick up just a console only of that model I mentioned on eBay. Just a very nice condition PlayStation 1 fat model, to be honest, the 1002 model. Yeah, it's the audiophile model. As you can see, it's got the phono outputs there, so you can get better audio quality, which is obviously a nice thing to have. And I checked inside and it all looks perfect. All functions very nicely. This was only £8.50 on eBay, so I know that's very cheap, and I was able to test it straight away because my PlayStation 2 behind me uses the same power cord as this, which is cool. And I already have the Retro Tink 2X Mini to sort of output the display of this via the AV on the back. So I gave it a test and it was all good. So even though it's not a console that I absolutely love, it's a console that I played a lot as a child, so that's why I wanted it in the collection. And you may or may not have seen recently on my Instagram that I've sort of completed the PlayStation 1 to 5 boxed collection. So that's why I wanted it in the collection. So moving on swiftly to some other stuff. I'll go through my childhood stuff because that seems to be what I've focused on the last few weeks. I've picked up games that I've sort of been trying to... Sometimes it's hard to remember every game you played as a child. Sometimes I just go through CEX and just go on, say, Wii games, and scroll through the lists and think, oh yeah, I've got all of those. Then hundreds and hundreds of games later, you find one, oh yeah, I used to play that, I really liked it. And that was the case with this game. So that was Excite Truck on the Wii. I think it's about £3 on eBay. Very good condition, and just a really fun arcade racing game on the Wii. Me and my brother used to play it split screen, and you could use the Wii wheels. So that was very fun. But yeah, really fun arcade racer, and highly recommend it, and really nice to have it back in the collection. And then we've got a couple of N64 titles. So both of these were a bit more expensive than I first envisaged, but I've wanted them for quite a while, and that is Mario Golf on the N64. You may or may not know this links in with the Game Boy Color version of this game via the transfer pack, so you can transfer your character between, which is really cool. And then there's also the original Mario Party. This one was the one I was talking about that's more expensive than I thought. I think it was nearly 40 quid, which is expensive for a cart-only game. But it's a game I remember playing. I used to see it in people's houses, full player on it. And Mario Golf was kind of the same. I think that was a £20-ish game, cart only. But yeah, both really good additions to the collection. And then finally, on the sort of childhood front, my dad actually messaged me a few days ago and said, Dale, you've got some PlayStation 2 games in the loft. And I was like, oh, please don't let it be games that I've already gone and bought and backfilled into the collection already, but fortunately I think they were just games that I left behind when I attempted to move to New Zealand I think it was about 5 years ago now. But these are really cheap games, but they have nostalgic value for me, so I was happy to have them back. So that is LA Rush. Obviously a much more valuable game on other platforms, but a really fun sort of arcade free roam racing game. Little Britain, just because I absolutely loved the TV series when I was younger / early teenage years. And then FIFA 08, which is probably like worth nothing, but I remember being into my football back in 2008. Still support Cheltenham Town, but that's about it. Not really into it much anymore. So yes, that's the last of the childhood stuff. And then there's a few things that I got from Pete, Retro Games HQ in Swindon. Mentioned his shop a few times and done shop tours before, but just picked up some nice items for the games room. So these were just items that I wanted, not necessarily had nostalgia for. The first one being a game that I wanted when it came out, which seems to be the theme of my buying at the moment, and that was LA Noire. That's a Rockstar game, obviously. Same people who make GTA, so you know it's going to be good. And yeah, really looking forward to that because I love my gangster films. And then secondly and lastly on the game front, there is Rage 2. Rage 2 is a follow-up to a game called Rage on the PS3, I think it is. Yeah, I've got it on the PS3, it's behind me. And that was a really, really good apocalyptic first-person shooter. It's a bit like Borderlands, but the graphics and the missions were really, really fun. And it's by Bethesda, so you know it's not going to be bad at all. And that was only about £7, so I thought I'd pick it up. I think LA Noire was about £2. And then I just picked up a couple of little things. So this was just for my Yoshi collection, and that is a Yoshi Super Mario keyring, official one. Still boxed. The box is not amazing condition, but it was about £4, so it was worth adding to the Yoshi sort of corner. I might do an updated games room tour in the next few months because a lot has changed, as you'll see in upcoming videos. And then he is just one of the kindest shop owners I know. As I was sort of paying, and he was sort of joking with me that, Dale, you've not spent anywhere near as much as normal. And I was like, yeah, I've completed my like nostalgia collection now. And he's like, oh, okay, just take this as a gift for being a valued customer, I think was his words. He got absolutely loads of these in recently, and he's trying to sell them off for about £12. Just a really cute sack boy from Little Big Planet. And that actually reminded me that I used to play Little Big Planet on the PS3. But it's not a game that I have a lot of nostalgia for. But it was very kind of him to give me one of these. As you can see, it's not exactly a small figurine. So I'm not sure where it's going to fit, but it was very kind of Pete. And that rounds things off for today's episode, guys. Thank you very much for watching. I think these episodes are going to be a bit more spread out now that I've told you that my nostalgia collection is sort of done and dusted. Still got a lot of space on the shelves now, so it'd be nice to sort of just browse for games that look interesting and learn about new ones before I sort of go and purchase stuff now. So there might be less pickups, but I'll be sort of interested to pick up older titles that I haven't necessarily played and still enjoy them, which is definitely the case with what I've picked up in this episode. But if you've enjoyed this episode, guys, leave a comment and a like down below, and if you're not subscribed, then subscribe down below as well, and we'll see you in the next one. Cheers.